Yes, hello, everyone. How's everybody doing? Yeah, should we stretch a little bit after lunch? Yeah, and then you do this. Yeah, okay. I find that mentor and mentee advisor relationship very intriguing. It's sometimes, you know, there is an Asian proverb: when students ready, teachers will show up. What that means is that you can force a person of learning, right? You have to be ready to learn. And I think a lot about that when I was in doctoral students as a person seeking advising or seeking mentorship, or a person who really looking for sponsorship, where mentorship and advising is slightly different from sponsorship. And I did not recognize it until when I started working on, K and other grants, when a mentorship may teach you where to go, sponsors will grab you there and then walk with you, right? And then I did not recognize it until certain time. Because when you're a student, you follow what to do, right? But at one point in your life, you have to start planning of your own path and then try to find the path. And sometimes what they tell you to do is slightly different. The practical nuances are not actually transmitted to me, because sometimes those unspoken, how should I say, unspoken to do, right? No, I'm trying to find the good word. Unspoken rules or social mores are not, it cannot be explicitly explained to you. You have to be able to recognize it. And sometimes you're not ready to recognize it, so you have to spend some time before and then like, hey, that's what I was missing, and nobody told me that. But maybe sometimes I'm not ready to receive it, or maybe it's difficult to express it. But there is a differences between mentoring, advising, and sponsoring. And as my time has changed from mentee to mentor, I think a lot about how can I become a sponsor so that my advices can be move forward and be able to succeed, achieve their potentials, rather than mentoring. So that's one of the first thing. However, the one that I try to tell you today is building a successful relationship, the most important thing is time. I think that's what I want. That's the sentence that I first saw this morning. Sometimes we enter a mentor and mentee relationship and then believe your mentor will trust you. Or the other way around, that your mentee will trust me because I'm a mentor. That's the sort of like, why am I tiptoeing? That's the sort of like assumption that we have based on the power structure, right? We believe mentor knows more and mentees need to learn. Therefore, there should be assumptions. Their mentee will trust mentor to teach them or guide them, and mentor will trust my mentee or mentees they will follow our recommendation. But see, this relationship is sort of skewed in a sense that human assumptions, where how do we build trust? We need time. We need to observe one another. We need to see, is the person trustworthy? A person who may be trustworthy in one area might not be fully trustworthy in other areas, right? Those kind of more nuanced personal modulation takes time. And sometimes we try to ignore that, and I say, okay, we are now mentor and mentee, so we're gonna 100% trust each other. You will be, you will be my sponsor on everything that I do, and you'll follow me everything where I want you to go. And that doesn't work that way, right? And sometimes what I realize is that certain person is very good at mentoring very young professionals, and others are very good at mentoring seasoned professionals. And I think that's also have to be recognized. And as a mentee, mentees also have some responsibility of observing your mentor's temperament, mentor's readiness, and you also have to adjust your approach to how to mentor or teach your mentor to mentor you, right? So there is always a two-way mentoring is going on, and then I think sometimes it's difficult to assume, and then how do you measure your success of mentor-mentee relationship can actually change as time goes by as well. And then, so that's my entrance of our talk. Is it good enough? Is it too long? Okay. And then you can think about it, all the questions, and then I will answer you soon.
And we'll just have a little mix-up at the end and
Okay.
ask questions
Yeah.
and talk and stir it up and, get out, because we might have some people might have a different point of view.
Exactly.
So that was wonderful.
Okay. Time, trust.
Oh, okay.
Hi, everybody. So I have been fortunate to have a number of mentors in my life, namely a number of mentors in this room, and bear with my tears because I always get emotional when I come here. I have to say, so yes, Dr. Outlaw, she did interview me for the BSN MSN program at the University of Pennsylvania. I was super psyched. I was doing all this research. I was taking my prerequisites at like 3 different community colleges, get myself all set to go to Penn. Come to Penn, she's away. She's away for the year. She's away for the year. And I was like, oh, okay. And, I'm like reading all this resilience stuff. I was like, this is going to be awesome. It's going to be great. And then it's like, oh, no, she moved to Tennessee. And I'm like, wait, what? But I understand, she wanted to keep her husband, whatever. Okay. But I say all that to say, I can't express how grateful I was not only to continue to be and graduate from Penn's program. Have to say I was the first Psych NP program. I was the first graduate of the Psych NP program. It had been a clinical nurse specialist prior to that. I was a cohort of 1. You can imagine how fun that was for me. And then later on went on to be the program director of the Psych NP program, so then stepped into the shoes that Dr. Outlaw had left me for. So, but in all of that, in my mind, one of the things that drove me was wanting to make sure that I made her proud. So one of the things that I would say that is important, that is as important to me in a mentor-mentee relationship, I think because I have benefited so much from the experience of having people make it their personal business, not to make me successful, but to facilitate my success, right? Because you have to do the work. You have to do the things that will move you forward to be successful. But knowing that there were people that were in my corner, that were cheering me on, I see Dr. Bradley here connecting me with Villanova. Thank you, Villanova's got a Psych NP program now. What? No, I'm just saying I may have had something to do with that. Just a little bit. But just these are the types of things that happen because of the relationships that we've created here. And I think from a mentorship standpoint, a mentor makes it their responsibility or takes it as their personal responsibility to try to help their mentee be successful. But it is as much the mentee's responsibility to make their mentor not necessarily proud, but make their investment worth it, right? Someone, like, we can make money, we can, write papers, we can do all, we cannot get time back. That's the only thing that we cannot make more of, right? So if someone is taking their time and putting it into you, be worth it. And I'm not saying that anybody here isn't, but please. And it's not like an imposter syndrome. I'm not worth this person. Like, it's none of that, but just make sure that you're putting your time and your effort into being worth your mentor's time. Because it is supposed to be a mutually beneficial relationship, right? We benefit, having moved into the space of being a mentor for other people. I can tell you, going through academia, I graduated. My TA assignment as a doctoral student was running the Psych NP program. I don't know, other people were running Scantrons. I was running the Psych NP program at Penn, but whatever. So I can say that my transition out of being a PhD student and trying to figure out, like, where do I fit, because I'm a clinician, I'm an academic, I'm committed to seeing students be successful. I'm a gigantic super nerd, so like knowing psychopharmacology in and out and all this stuff like that. How do I make all this fit, and how do I move forward in systems that don't feel like they fit me, or I don't feel like I fit, or I don't feel like I belong? And being able to have open and honest conversations in places like this, at these institutes, with Dr. Outlaw, with Dr. Bradley, Dr. Brana is not here today, with Eugenia, like having those conversations with people and having them say, like, do what you do, girl. And I'm like, okay, so like I have an outpatient mental health practice. I have a drug and alcohol treatment program. I have a partial program. I run 3 sober living residences. I just got back from the Dominican Republic last night because I'm providing services to U.S. veterans through the Foreign Medical Program. And I'm running data and doing analyses and using my PhD every day. But that is because I've had the mentorship, the guidance, the passion, the support, just everything that you get here. And I'm so grateful that we're back together so that we can have these experiences again, and so that we can connect with you guys, because I know at a distance it's hard to feel this feeling. It's hard to be in your spaces and be like not only the only like person of color, but like we know how many people are into psych, right? Like, so everybody like looks at you weird because you're interested in psych, like, oh, what's wrong with you? That you want to deal with these crazy people, right? So like to be in a place where you don't have to explain why it matters, why it's important, why we need to do these things, like take advantage of it. Like this is all mentorship. You'll have your assigned mentors and you'll have natural mentors that from the relationships that you create in the meetings that you have here. So just take your time and take advantage of the time that you have here. That's my 2 cents. Okay, thank you.
I got booted. Okay, so now it's your time, but I just want to say, I think that Dr. Park talked about something that we are beginning to see in the literature. And how many of you have been reading about anything about mentorship versus sponsorship? You've been reading? Okay, well, I got a few words about that, but it foreshadowed what we were going to do, because in our ITI program, we're going to have some more information about that, I believe, if I'm not getting mixed up all the things we're doing, and I may be. But somewhere along the line, you're going to hear about that, and if you don't, this is the time we can start to talk about it if you want to. So if people, yeah, I know we're going to, yes. We're going to do it tomorrow. See, I told you, now remember, she was the baby and I was the grown-up. But it's following life, isn't it? You know how your children are like your babies, and then you grow up and then all of a sudden they tell you what to do? Well, that's kind of the way it is playing out, and that's okay with me, because Dr. Bradley is responsible, and I can just get up here and do whatever until she yanks me off. But anyway, so we if you want to talk a little bit about that today, if you have questions about that, or if you have things that are working in your mentorship piece or not working, this is the time. I like that Dr. Millender talked about be comfortable being uncomfortable, because I say that a lot in the spaces on the boards that I'm on. And I tell people there's a difference of being respectful. There's a difference. You can be respectful, but you do not have to be nice. There is a difference. And when you're dealing with hard subjects, you can deal with hard subjects and be comfortable. Otherwise, they wouldn't be hard. You just have to be respectful when you're doing it, and do it in the ways that you got guidance this morning to do it. So this is a time to be open, to be transparent, to tell us what works, what doesn't work, see if we can fix it. If we can't, we might tell you what the theory is behind what it is that we're doing, and all conversations related to what the speakers have shared. It's time for you to have your voice.
Thank you. My question is for Dr. Outlaw. Yeah. I'm wondering, you match the mentors and the mentees. What do you look for when you're doing the match?
Okay. I did not ask her to do that, by the way. Did you see when I said? Okay. What we do is we have profiles on everybody that volunteers to be a mentor. What your area, what your expertise, what where you are, those kind of things. So we take all of those factors, and then we take the profiles of the people that have been admitted, and we look at those, what you're interested in. Like, for the last couple of years, we've had a lot of people who've been interested, interestingly enough, in psychotherapy again. And, that's how we were all trained. We were all trained as psychotherapists and liaison workers. That was the advanced practice role when I was there. And so I got certified AAMFT, American Association of Marriage and Family Therapists. I'm a certified child play therapist. And we took pharmacology, but that was a secondary. So there were a couple of people who wanted to do psychotherapy. So I knew somebody from her profile that was, certified and was certified in different genres in psychotherapy. So I said, I know who that's going to. So I get to know everybody very well from their profiles, and that we match. But now we are automated, so we have a way of automating. So I figure out it's like man against the machine. So we automate first the machine, and then we look at it as a staff, Janet and I, especially, and then we look at whether we agree with the machine or we don't agree with the machine, and we make the decisions that way. But one of the things I wanted to say to you also, if you read your please read your mentoring manual. It's kind of getting a little bit out of date, but the really science about it and the input from fellows before you, it's still in there about if it doesn't work out, like Dr. Park was saying, you don't have to stay in the relationship. You can change your mentors. You can just say, this isn't working for this kind of reasons, and we do not hold you to that. We ask you to talk to your mentor about it if you're the mentee, and on the other side, if it's the mentor and it's not working, then we negotiate that, we work it out, we try to make another way of providing you what you need. So that's my answer. Yes. Wait.
I think my voice is loud enough.
No, they're trying to record.
Everybody thinks the voice.
Yeah, I always think my voice is loud enough that everybody can hear me. I think sometimes it's really time is. Yeah, I think time actually really like time and effort actually is very important. Sometimes what happens is some relationship may not like feels like they're like working, but is it sometimes it's because there is a misunderstanding of mismatch of expectation, and then we want to sort of try to resolve that first, right, before we switch it and then give up the relationship. I think that's also like important, right? Because we don't want to have like mentors and the mentees saying, oh, I want to go A, but my mentor said I should go B, so therefore this relationship is not working, and I want new mentor who's gonna, support me or what I want. But sometimes it's just we have different expectations, therefore we may have to spend some time to modulate and understand one another before we give up. I think that's also the important thing.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
Excellent point.
Dr. Parks, I think that's an excellent a position that you just gave. So I guess my question is, as I was sitting here listening, is what, and I put it to both of you, what are some of your expectations of your mentee? Because, that's always a question that I have in the back of my mind. What does someone expect of me? I guess I always want to live into someone's expectation as well. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I think one of the things that can happen in one of your first meetings is actually outlining what the expectations are, because different mentors and different mentees will have different expectations of each other. And I think the more open you can be to having and putting egos aside, I'll just say, the more open you can be in having conversations about, like, listen, I'm a grad student, I have a family, I have class 4 days a week, I have clinical 2 days a week. This is the time frame that I have. That helps a mentor say, like, all right, then I'm gonna say we may do some email check-ins every once in a while until you actually have a good chunk of time, like maybe in between the semester. Because adding into someone's schedule, saying like, all right, I want a weekly meeting with you every Thursday night at 8 o'clock when you're just getting out of class, or you're just doing it like that doesn't suit you. It doesn't help. And then, that can create tension in the relationship, and it makes you feel like you're failing in some way when we're here to try to help people be successful. But we also don't want people to go so far or so long without having some sort of check-in that you feel like you're not supported. So, and Jolie, you can full on like tell on me all you want. I promise you're not in trouble. But like you could say, like, when I said like what will work best for you while you're in school versus like maybe while you're in school, this is how often we can meet. What are your big picture plans so that I can kind of think how I could be supportive of you. And then, we can kind of check in at different points and see where you are with them. Oh, are you in the middle of writing 3 papers and taking 4 exams? Okay, we're not going to meet. We're not going to meet this week. We'll meet 2 weeks from now. So, like, that type of stuff, I think being upfront is beneficial in the conversation. And I think your mentors is much more able to adjust and accommodate a schedule if you're upfront with them about, like, this is what you're dealing with and what you're facing as far as like school goes. I will say we don't particularly like blocking time on our schedule and being blown off. I'm just saying that doesn't go over so well without even like a message or a, like, oh hey, forgot, nothing, like that doesn't go over so well. So, but yeah, I mean, because again, people are blocking their time, right? So if people are blocking their time and putting time into spending that time with you, that means that they're making you a priority, and they're just hoping that you're going to do the same for that relationship.
I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree. You are my priority on that time, like between 1 to 2. Yeah, but I think the important part is that our expectations and commitment level changes, right? When we first meet, when we don't know each other, don't expect full commitment for one another because we want, right, to build. I'm very Buddhist in that way, right? Human being doesn't develop full trust to a stranger. That's just what it is, right? It takes time. The second component is that I think when we plan, sometimes it's have to match with your goal. So I'm going to actually have a very concrete examples for you. So some of the master students, mentees, tell me, when I first meet, I usually tell them, what is your goal? Right? What do you try to get out of? And oftentimes they say, oh, I would like to have a job. Right? Because it's actually very, very respectable goals. You went to school, you have to have a job, right? The problem in that goal is that I am an academic professor. I have no job for you, right? I have a zero job. But if you tell me you want to come to Bay Area for like a nurse practitioner's job who serve children with minority, focusing on minority children, I may have areas or clinics, name of the clinics, right? And I can share that with you. I consider that as not a mentorship component, but sponsorship component, right? However, I cannot call the director and then tell you, hey, give this person a job. I can't do that, right? So that goal is not matching. However, like knowing the goal of my mentee is very helpful, right? Because then I know as a mentor what I can do and what I cannot do. I maybe even tell my students that's what I cannot do, but I will sponsor you. Say, how about I introduce Dr. Josey? She's that specialty and she works in that area, right? So I can be one of those sponsor who can develop a network because I have network, but I cannot do certain things, right? So it's like understanding your own goal is very important. And then share that with your mentor. And in the mentor standpoint, I think being honest is also very important because you will be at one point, you will all be a mentor, right? Don't overpromise to your mentees what you cannot do, right? So it's easier to say, okay, this is what I can do, this task I can actually facilitate, this I cannot do. I cannot give you A, so that's it, so right? So this is very important. Second thing that I learned is we don't know what is our goal when we enter the relationship, right? So our goal may change as time goes by. My mentee in year 1 may have a very different goal with me than when they enter in the second year, right? So it's always nice to mentees to reflect. Is this goal, have my goals changed? In how, and you have to tell your mentors that, because we may assume that your year 2 goal is exactly the same with year 1 goal, but that may not so, right? So these are two areas that you might want to communicate. Time. I think time is the most important things to build a trusting relationship. Yeah.
Okay. So as we talk about aligning goals with your mentor, right? And in this area of, inflation, we talk about diversification of your stock portfolio, right? What about diversification of your mentorship, team? Mm-hmm. What does that look like? What are you suggesting within academia and outside academia?
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. Like nobody succeed. Diversification of mentors, right? So we have formal mentors, right? You matched up in your doctoral study. You have an advisor. That's your formal mentor. But in my life, I have different informal mentors, and then they sometimes move front when I have certain issues come about, and they may be actually less, in front when I'm dealing with something else. For example, I can also learn very different ways. Dr. Aulo was never been my mentor formally, but do you know how much I learned from Dr. Aulo? By observing her, right? That's when students are ready, teachers show up. Teachers can show up anywhere, anywhere, right? Anywhere, anytime. That's right. So Dr. Aulo never agreed that she will be my mentor, but she is a quasi-mentor for me because I'm observing her, how she mentors others, how she present her issues, like in this forum, and then share that with you guys. That's another different kind of mentorship. For research, a lot of you do research. Your research project is led by multiple mentors, right? Substance maintenance who are going to teach you in the content, but statistics mentors, they may be very important to teach you methodology. There may be other mentors who can help you. How do you develop relationship with community organizations? How do you put your foot into those space? And then there is a more nuanced know-hows. And they're all different mentors, but you don't need them at the same time, at the same day, all important times. They move back and forth in terms of their importances. That you have to do it, right? You know what you need at the time, and that's what you did. What we don't want, however, is like feeling blindsided. Like, you have that, right? So my mentees will come in and say, oh, this is what I'm going to do, right? And then they'll go to other team members, and they do something else differently, then don't tell us. And then at the end, like about 6 months later, like, what's going on here? It's completely different what we have discussed, right? So I think that's what the trustworthiness comes from as well. If you change, you communicate that with everyone, right? So that everybody is on the same page.
Right, that's called, we know that term, right? Site nurses? When people do that, what's it called, triangulation?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the things that I would say, because we've been so committed to mentorship even within my own practice, so just as an example, the way that my business is set up, nobody that works for me works for me. Everybody's a 1099 independent contractor, so they're all working for themselves. But when they come in and they're working for me, they're getting guidance, right? We're teaching them how to set themselves up as a business. We are setting them up with a financial planner, connecting them with an accountant. You don't necessarily have to stay with them, but at least you're getting your foot on the ground and making plans for yourself and for your financial success as you're transitioning into business. And some people may opt to decide to continue with our practice. Some people may opt to decide to go out and do their own thing. And if they do, fantastic, then there is somebody that I can refer my clients to that I know that I can trust, right? But that's part of the commitment to developing a whole practitioner, a whole clinician, or mentoring a whole person, right? Like it's not just the academic, it's not just the clinical skill, but it's helping us be financially successful. It's helping us to be financially stable, viable, recognizing what our fiscal options and opportunities might be in the future, and developing people that we could eventually collaborate with down the line, right? So keeping all those things in mind, because those will be some of the things that you'll look into when you're considering what job am I going to take. When you're saying, I want a job, right? Like, what job am I going to take? What role am I going to transition into? What benefits? It's not just your salary that makes up your benefit package. What other pieces are you going to have in terms of mentorship, guidance, support, training, education? Like, to have the idea that somebody would even connect me with a financial planner. I'm like, no, you come in, you meet with an accountant, they talk to you about how to set up a business. You meet with a financial planner, they tell you how to plan to pay your taxes, like all this stuff like that, because we want people to be successful. We don't want people to come in and then realize, like, oh, I can't actually do this. Like, how many people come into a master's program and say that they want to go start a private practice? How many? I'm like, I'm sure, right? Like, how many, right? So know what you're getting into, but that's what we try to help people. That's a commitment that we've made within our practice to make sure that people know what they're getting into so that you're going in eyes wide open.
So can I make a little plug about the mentoring manual again? Okay, I'm sorry, yeah. Let me make a plug about the mentoring manual, though, about diversity. One of the things we say in there, based on the science and the experience that you give us back, the input you give us back, is that diversity is, mentoring is all about diversity. We know that one person can't meet all your needs, but Dr. Parks' remark about when you have a plan with your designated number one, then that you just need to share that, so as you go out for different places for different things, then everybody's on the same page. So we totally support that just because you're assigned a mentor in here doesn't mean that you can't have other people providing mentorship for you for different things that they need, and that can even be part of your plan with your mentor, to say, these are the things that I need, and how do I go about getting them?
Yeah, I have two really great mentors. One is institutional and one is MFP, and they've both been really good mentors and sponsors. It's funny because I don't, I would never have picked them myself. I don't align with any of their interests at all. But they've been both really good mentors and sponsors. And one of the things they did was they connected me to people who had similar interests to me. And so my question, Dr. Park, is when they do that and we meet with someone else, what is the goal of that conversation? How do we follow up, and how do we expand out once we're connected?
That's a very good question. Sometimes, I will send my students to somebody who's like, oh, I saw this conference and then this is perfect match for you. Go talk to them. And I never hear from them. No follow-up, right? And that's not fun, right? So sometimes what is the most endearing part is that they will, next mentoring meeting, they say oh, Dr. Park, I met with this professor that you sent it to me, and then I set it up 1 hour, and then we talked this and this, and I really like them. I said, oh, yes, right? But that's a fruit, sometimes doesn't pan out, right? That's perfectly fine, right? You just tell us, right? I tried to talk with this person, I sent an email 10 times, and I never heard from him, right? That happened many times for me. But I really send an email for no particular reason and I say, oh, I read your article, I really like it. Can I have a talk with you? Do you come to San Francisco? Can I have coffee with you? And some people really nicely send an email. Those kind of things, that's how you build relationships, right? Then in content area. But going back to the area where when you approach a person, and then don't get responses, I can then send an email to the faculty, say, hey, I sent my students to you, you are not sending an email, what's going on here? Let me formally introduce you to my student so that you can go connect, right? So, well, I could have done that in the first way, right? But there is another reason why I don't. Because I want my students to be able to have a cold call and be able to initiate scholarly conversation, and that's only happen when you practice it, right? So that's one way I'm doing it, but it's all I learned that from my mentors, right? They would do this sponsoring relationship, right? And then that's one of the sponsors do, right? So feedback is very helpful for us as a mentor, because then I can do the quality improvement of your mentoring. So, okay, now I know that maybe you're not good at cold email, then I may even say, what kind of email have you sent? Let me look at it, right? And then we can talk about it oh, next time maybe you want to say explicitly that Dr. Park sent you to contact you, right? See, there is a many nuanced way, but I will not be able to know, right, as a mentor, what kind of things you have done until you talk to me, right? So it is not always oh, I did that to you, what you said, and it didn't work, therefore it's not good, right? It's more can we minutely improve the processes? And I think that's sometimes missing in the relationship with mentor and mentee relationship, is this quality improvement heart. Life is not straight. There is a many ways to, skin the cat, right? The question is, what's the best way for you to skin the cat? No offense to the cat lovers. I love cats. Go cat, or like skin the mouse, right? Skin the mice, right? So there is a many type of attack, plan an attack, and then we can change minutely so that we can achieve the goal. So the fact that we have to be goal-oriented, right, means that you have to be flexible, and mentor and mentee can work together and take the advantage of the concept of flexibility, right? If one way didn't work, let's do second way, or third way, fourth way. But you have to tell us. Otherwise, we might actually label you, oh, I sent this student so many, networking, but she or he or they, right, never be able to achieve. Then it's really very frustrating as a mentors as well, because we think about like you a lot, right? This person made perfect, right? And it didn't go pan out. And I want to know why, right? So that I can find the different ways to do it. Did that answer your questions? Okay. I'm going to maybe Dr. Josey may have.
So I have a question. I know we're talking about the power dynamic between like those in academia and then us who are still becoming. But I wanted to know what you all thought about peer mentorships, because as I was listening to what you were saying, what came to my spirit was conduit, the word conduit, and how we can be these energies that link two different or more than one person or people together. And that's the beauty of like the universe, right? Like when you think about energy and vibratory frequency and how we're all on this like vibratory universal frequency. And although I can't speak to your strengths, I can tune into the universe and find someone else that can speak to your strengths and align with your life path. And you'd be surprised among your peers their knowledge and how Creator speaks through them to you, even though they don't have that power dynamic. You guys are kind of parallel. And so when you were speaking about how sometimes mentors go in the forefront and they go behind, and I also want to make a point that sometimes they are parallel as well. And how do you feel about peer mentorships as well?
Oh, yeah. Okay, Dr. Josey, you're going to do.
All right, so totally going to put an in plug here. So because we saw the significance and the importance of the peer relationships that we had here within the MFP program, it's been since 2006, we've had a graduate fellowship organization. And that is so that the mentorship can continue, so that the relationships can continue. And as people finish their time in their programs, you are automatically part of the Minority Fellowship Graduate Association, officially incorporated, happen to be the president, I'm just saying, whatever. We are a nonprofit. I'm accepting no, I'm just kidding. But no, we are officially recognized as a nonprofit entity. So just even the work that we put in over the last couple of years to become officially incorporated, well, not even officially incorporated, to become an officially recognized organization, to then become officially recognized as a nonprofit organization, so that these peer relationships, these mentorships, this can continue even beyond your time as an MFP fellow, because you're always a fellow, but you may not necessarily always be able to be as financially supported through the fellowship program. However, our networks can continue, and we do continue to support each other. And so that was part of the reason that we developed the Minority Fellowship Graduate Association, of which you will all be invited upon your finish by the time you complete your programs. So it does continue.
When do we meet?
Yes. So our meetings are the third Wednesdays of the month. We take a break in the summer because, all the planning for the intensive and everything like that. So we meet by Zoom, 9 p.m. Eastern time, so that the folks on the West Coast that at least maybe hopefully can finish work so that they can participate as well. So if anyone has finished their program and hasn't gotten an invite or a link to the meetings, please see me as the president, because I keep the list. And we'll make sure that we add you to make sure that you get the invites to the meetings. But yes, the peer mentorship absolutely is important, and it is something that we experienced actually all through COVID. We had weekly just check in because life was hard, right? And so we had like a weekly meeting, and anybody that wanted to participate could participate. You could come in just because you wanted to connect with people. You could sit and listen. You could come in and cry. You could come in and not even turn your camera on, just say that you were there. But the whole purpose was just to let each other know that you weren't isolated and you weren't alone. And now we meet on a monthly basis because we don't want it to be a burden to anybody. But when there are projects and tasks, of course, meetings might be more frequent as like committees work on different things. But yes, the peer mentorship does continue.
Yeah, it's not a question. I want to make a couple of comments. Number one, I'm Mary Lou de Leon Science, and I'm actually one of the early members back from the Civil War of the MFP. But I also want to say I'm also a member of the LaKeetra Josey fan club because she's being very humble. You saw the list of things that she's already involved in, but from the time I began being part of the NAC here, she relentlessly went forward in building and designing this alumni association, once a member, always a member. And so it's established part of the collegiality, and someone mentioned peers. This peer group is going to continue evolving, and we give back to each other in different ways. So peers are very, very important, and through this group, leadership is being built. And I want to recognize her leadership in establishing this. All right. Secondly, I want to also address that to help all of us understand that it takes a village to build professional competence over a lifetime. So your beginnings and learning and understanding how mentorship, the importance of mentorship and sponsorship, this is the base. This is the beginning of it, but it will evolve. And no matter where you are in your career, as you evolve into climbing and doing different things, it will take people that have gone through that experience to also help guide you as well as sponsor you as you are evolving. So this is not something that's going to happen to you. Don't ever think you're alone. You can always come back to the alumni, but someone will know someone that will be able to help you to the next step. And in terms of the next step, we here in this program, because of our underrepresented status, whether you're going into community organizations, professional organizations, academia, even if you are a newbie, you get hit really hard, really fast because they need minority representation. So what I always advise is whatever your job is going to be, your career destination at that point in time, and it will change with your experience, you must always look, and I tell my mentees, they must always have the merit review criteria behind their computer. And decision-making as it goes up until you're tenured or become whatever it is that tenures you in your position, until you get to that point, you have to make careful decisions in terms of what you're going to say yes to and how that will impact your merit review. And so that's also part of the mentor, helping you understand the impact of your decisions and the consequences of those decisions for your merit, so you are secure in climbing, because otherwise, once you've been used, they say goodbye. So it's again, it's a village over a lifetime of a career, and it begins here now. Thank you.
It's perfect timing, right? Yeah.
So we're really at time, but Dr. Bradley has given us 5 more minutes. If anybody has a pressing question or our panelists have a last remark that they want to make. So this is the time for your voice to be heard if you have another question. If not, like we're saying, we're going to all be around for a while.
That's right.
And you all mostly are going to be around for a while. So as things come to you, please approach us because that's what we're here for. So do you guys have anything that you want to say? Closing?
I just want to clarify like one thing. Sometimes I think peer mentor is very important, and then they're a very great source of your emotional support, right? But sometimes mentorship is defined and then commitment, right? It's defined by the goal, what you're going to achieve, and that's slightly different than emotional support, right? So what I sometimes see my doctoral students is that they will talk to each other, like first year congregate and talk about all those things about like first year doctoral study, right? But sometimes it's not correct, right? So sometimes it's, don't let your peer mentoring the only source of the mentorship. And I think that's important. And I just want to clarify, because peer mentoring is such an important component, right? But it should be on one of many sources of your mentorship and advising.
And the only other thing that I would add is that take every opportunity and every experience as a learning one. Because you are always learning, whether you are actively recognizing that you are or not, you are always learning. You're either learning what to do or what not to do, or what you may like or what you might not like. So if you can take a look at your experiences, even like your clinical placements or some of the classes that you're in, and you're like, I'm not learning anything, when am I going to use this ever? Like, I promise you, if you look at it as, this is something that I either may need or I can learn from this somehow. Like, that's like one of the worst things that you could say to someone is like, I'm just not learning anything. Then I'm like, you're not working hard enough, right? Because you can always be learning. You can always be learning something. So that just be open to learning.
Yeah, because even if it's not working, you're learning something.
You're
You're
learning
learning
that
why
it's
it's
not
not working. Okay, so it is my duty to give you something that I know you want to hear, but I'm just going to say one thing first. Okay, I either get all in or all out, and somebody's telling me, put it on, take it off, yeah. So I believe, because I'm a psychotherapist to my heart, so I watch all behavior, I listen to all language, and it all has meaning. Communication, there's no such thing as not communicating, even when you're not talking. So I'm going to make a promise. I'm going to write something before next intensive about words. Words are very important because they really put in your head how you're going to be. That's why names of who you are, all of those things. So the word mentoring has a scientific basis, and so we want to talk about that in terms of what it means to have all these other connotations around mentoring. So before we come again, I'm going to write something. Probably some of you will probably throw rotten tomatoes at me, but that's okay. It's been worse. And so that there's, in at least based on the science, what it actually means and what these words mean, because we have to be real clear. When we talk to our patients, when we listen to them, we have to be real clear. And when we talk to each other, we have to be real clear. So terms and terminology and what you say and what you mean are very important to me. And I might be one of these old heads that dying out, but I will be talking about it until I die. Probably be the last thing I say. Help those people learn that words have impact and they have specific meanings. So I think it's a wonderful discussion. I want to give us a big hand to the people who have led this discussion. And then I want to give you all a big hand for being active participants and asking the questions that will help us and guide us. And Dr. Yorande wants to say something, so you've got the floor.
Just 1 minute. So far, I see only 6 people responded to this morning's session. I want this number at least quadrupled. Let's go for it.